basically the river is running down the middle there, we're crossing over side to side. Yeah. So we've thrown a throw line across. This is one of the new throw lines. It went over no problem. That's an 18-metre bag, so yeah, it's about 15-16 metre spans. That's going to cross. Somebody's already swum across, the bag's going to cross, and now we can start pulling ropes across. Yeah, it's a lot easier pulling a thin line than it is pulling a big heavy line through the water. We can do this with floating ropes as well. Our floating ropes are strong enough to do this, but just thought today, rather than doing them mucky, we'll keep that for water. Right, so we've got somebody swim across, and they're going to attach lines on for us. We're going to pull the ropes there, and then find a suitable anchor. Now we're looking for something like a tree, ideally. Yeah, we can use rock anchors, we can use ground anchors, but the amount of forces in this is far, far, far greater than what you used to just pulling a stretcher up a cliffside. We're talking 200% plus. Okay. We can do a vector diagram later on, just so it gives you some kind of idea of how much force we're putting through it. But keep this in mind. If you've got a straight spans, we're talking infinity forces either side. Yeah. So if you put 10 newtons, 10 kilonewtons that side, 10 kilonewtons that side, yeah, it's going to multiply it by, it's going to rip everything out of the ground. However, as soon as you deflect that by any sort of way whatsoever, you're reducing them forces massively. So the shorter we can keep this, and also enough slack that it's not going to put great, enough slack to allow you to flex, but not too much slack that you're going to have to be hauling uphill too hard. That makes sense? Yeah. Because we're going to be pulling this back towards this side eventually, loaded with a stretcher and possibly 2 or 3 people, it's going to be a fair pull. Yeah. So if we get a bit of flex, yeah, then like I say, then forces are reduced massively. So that's good. What we're looking for in tension is roughly, when you twist the rope, you can twist it 90 degrees and not much more than that. So I can twist that with a struggle about 180. Okay, so I need it tighter than that. Yeah. Right, so twist the rope about 90 degrees, and that should tell you that about enough tension is right. And you need both ropes the same. Okay, so if you use, let's say you use 3 people to haul the tension on the rope, the same 3 people need to haul the tension on the rope. That makes sense? Yeah, just so you get the same amount of force. This side doesn't really do much. We may take the stretcher over the far side, we may bring it back. We have the ability to bring it over this side, but ideally we want it to bring it back to where everyone is, where you've come from. Yeah? So we'll keep this side as a minimum. That means minimal knots, minimal gear, because there's less stuff to get over. Yeah? So just now my span is shorter than the single rope, so I've halved it and I've just used the one. That's absolutely fine, but you've got to remember that the reduction in strength of putting a knot in the system. Yeah, we're talking massive loads here. Yeah, so anything that we can increase the strength, the better. So if we've got enough ropes, yeah, then just use 2 ropes. Even if there is tons of ropes sitting in the bank, it doesn't matter. But just for demo purposes, it's quicker for me to do this. Everybody know what a no-knot is? Yeah? Anybody know? No. So no-knot is just a wrap around the tree. Yeah? Minimum 5 turns, ideally 7, but it's a lot of rope to go around it. All that's doing is creating friction without putting a knot. That's why it's a no-knot in the system. Yeah? That means you get full strength off the rope. And you know the strength of the rope? Yeah, 30. So you put a knot in it, you lose 10. Okay, so we're third in everything. If you put 10 knots in it, you still lose 10. You don't reduce it by 10 every time you put a knot in it. Okay. Right, so that's your main lines. Yeah, that's your running lines, and then we've got underneath another 2 lines. This line here, the yellow one, is the raising and lowering line. That's fixed at this end. We can make it workable if we want to, but generally we don't need to. We can just tell that bank to raise and lower it. Yeah, simplifies things. And then this one, I've just put, I've ran out of kit basically, so I've got a prusik, which we'll try and make sure we've got kit for next week. But I've got a personal prusik on there, which needs to be a rigging prusik, and I've got a stitch plate on there. Okay, so it means I can still work it. Yeah, I can lower and I can raise if I need to by putting in the 3-to-1 Z rig. Yeah, happy with 3-to-1s. Yeah. So prusiks, ideally, I would like IDs here as well. Yeah, we're quite a good fan of IDs in Mountain Rescue, and they slip at 6 kilonewtons. Okay, they're designed to slip at 6 kilonewtons. So if there's a fall or a massive load, it can release that fall without shock loading the system. Yeah. Prusiks do the same, but these prusiks, these are slipping about 5 kilonewtons. Your personal prusik will slip about 4 kilonewtons. Okay. So you could double these up, give you 10 kilonewton, but 10 kilonewton is going to start snapping ropes and carabiners and things like that. Yeah. So 6 kilonewtons ideal. Yeah, an ID. I'd quite like IDs in here. And maybe next week when we do it, we'll put IDs in here. It saves a lot of fuss as well. It looks nice and tidy. But just now, prusiks are ample. Yeah, absolutely fine. And then we've still got slack in these ropes. Okay, they're not tied off. They're just slack and tied off in case they do slip. Yeah. Then we know that the system's taking too much load when these go tight. Yeah. Lower it to the ground quickly. Right, that's that. Again, you can do no knots with the rigging line and use, an eye off the tree, or you can just use slings around the tree. Did I say tree needs to be at least helmet size? Did I say that? Needs to be at least helmet size for a big enough anchor. Okay, and that goes across the board with any rigging we do. At least helmet size. The bigger the better. Make sure it's not dead. Looking at the top. Hard in winter, I know. Yeah, and make sure there's plenty of ground root as well, and it's not just roots popping out of rocks. Yeah. I think the one we're looking at is just popping out of rocks, but it'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right, staying at this end, we've got IDs on our control lines. Okay, so the one I said about before, that's moving us left and right. Yeah, the red one, and then the yellow one is going to move us up and down. Do you see that working? Yeah. So they're nice and simple. If we need to haul the patient, the casualty, the stretcher up, then we can put our Z rig in there. 3-to-1. There's our 3-to-1 kit just there, pulley and a jammer. Yeah. That'll allow you to do that system nice and easily. Haul the patient up. Yeah. And once they're up, obviously the ID is capturing the tension anyway. Yeah. All making sense so far. Okay, this rope captures the load. Okay, because that's through an ID, like we say, it will slip at 6 kilonewton. So it's going to capture the load and then slip slightly, hopefully before it all hits the ground. Yeah. In practice, usually hit the ground. The way to lower the risk of hitting the ground is keeping that line as tight as you can without too much tension that you are interfering with the movement of the system. Does that make sense? So when we're moving left, or you're right, yeah, that rope needs to be paid out slowly, but keeping a bit of tension, and this rope needs to be taken in gently, allowing that rope to come through. Likewise, opposite way around. Yeah. Not lots of slack like it is just now. Makes sense? Yep.
So how's that back in that rope up just now?
Just if this fails, here, yeah, they're attached to both, that rope's attached to both ends.
So do we not need to back up the lower one as well?
No. So that one there, once that goes down, we're going to pick up the stretcher. The stretcher's going to then come back up, and the stretcher's going to get hooked onto the system up here. Yeah. There is another way of doing it, is you can bring another line in through a twin pulley there, and then back down, and that's a backup for casualties, barra boy, whoever. But to keep it nice and simple, just put your sling on once you're up. So then, when we want to move everything sideways, yeah, we've hauled up the stretcher, and we need to make sure that that pulley comes up in line. Yeah. So if you try pulling the whole system like that, yeah, look at this yellow rope, it's rolling through. Yeah. So that rope's got to go through as well. It's fixed at that side. Yeah. So therefore, if you end up doing that back up and across, huge amount of friction. Yeah. So we need to get that hauled up tight so the rope's running straight through. Yeah. Minimal friction. Okay, so that takes a lot of effort getting the stretcher pulled up to that point.
And that would just be done manually. You wouldn't attach that in any way, shape or form. That would just be a manual process.
That would be like a 3-to-1 on that side, 3 or 4 folk hauling the stretcher up to as high as we can. The barra boy would say, "Yep, that's good," or you'd probably be able to see it, to be honest. And then once it's up in line, then we can pull across. But it's really important not to raise it just a metre off the water's edge, say, and then pull it across, because you're really going to struggle trying to get that rope through. All right. Any questions?
Just going back,
Yep.
where you said you'd prefer petal IDs
Yep.
there, would they be instead of the classics you've got?
Yes. Yeah. It's just a slipping device.
Yeah. To replace it.
Yeah.
I
So.
remember wrong, but there's no silver classic zero.
Yep. So you normally put your prusik in there. Okay. Yep. So you'd undo that there. You'd have your prusik in there.
So that would take the initial.
That would take your initial fall, but you've got an ID in the end, so that's going to take it instead. Okay.
So if you didn't have an idea, then you put this.
Prusik's in there. Yeah. Any more? All good? That makes sense? Anything to add, Andy?
You don't need protection this and that.
Sorry?
You don't need protection this up, which was.
I'll show you attention if you want. Yep, simple enough.
What else is it?
Okay, so how we set it up? Just the modern, if we can get the ones from Newton on Sunday, Joe, in their rigging bag, you don't have this fiddly pin and your hands are cold and in the water. Okay, so Z rig, yeah, 3-to-1. Okay, 4 folk on there, pulling in, coming through the pulley, yeah, as hard as you want, in line ideally, yeah, and then someone, Beanie, if you can set that prusik for me. Yep, nice and tight. Just that one. Yep. Okay. Release the tension gently, making sure the prusik holds. Okay. And then take the system off. And then you've got it for doing everything else in a second when you get your cut. Yep. Alright. And then make sure you tie it off.
Make sure you remember it in 6
A bit of slack. Yeah. And then finish it off. How do you want to do it? Okay. So your tie off points also need to be a separate anchor. Yeah. Because if this anchor
about 10 trees.
yeah. If this anchor fails, yeah, that one there needs to be a separate one to take the the backup. Ideally you would like these ropes on separate anchors, but it makes your lines a mess. They're not close enough, they're too wide. Unless you can get one in front of the other, it's like no more than a couple of feet apart. If it's any longer than that, then it'll change your tension on your ropes as well. So one anchor's fine as long as it's backed up.
It's such a piece of equipment, like let's say you have them, I don't know, 4 foot apart, it's such a piece of equipment to bring them into like a triangle and then out.
Yeah, if they're just use rigging rope, just like we do in any setup normally on the cliff top, just put your vector in and then come off a BFK or whatever. Yeah, not a problem. Anything else? Excellent. Right. Everyone's seen the stretcher bridle, the Western bridle ish. Right, I'll just quickly show you that. Right. So we've got nice simple 4 straps, 4 adjustable straps. Yeah, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, and they're actually labelled head end, foot end. Okay, nice simple, yeah. And then we can adjust it depending on obviously the casualty, reasons for a casualty needing to be 45 degrees or more in a stretcher. If they've got head injury, most than likely, yeah. Then we try and get their head elevated a wee bit, so we can do that with that bridle. You do need crabs on, yeah, but we're getting away from the 6-point fixings because the stretchers are stronger. Okay.